For decades now, John and Lisa Bevere have been conference speakers, authors, mentors, coaches as to people of faith and where they are in the journey when it comes to life and marriage and all kinds of relationship challenges. In their conversations, in their speaking, and in their writing, they're vulnerable, they're open, they're transparent. And that comes true in this book that they've done together called The Story of Marriage. I was going to say The Storage of Marriage, John, but I guess that's not that might be. That could be the sequel. Yes, write that down. That's right.
We got it.
It's called The Story of Marriage, and it's John and Lisa Bevere. Guys, congratulations on this.
Thank you.
Welcome back to 100 Huntley Street.
Great to be back.
So, you open it by saying, why another book on marriage? Why another book on marriage?
Oh, I have a good answer for that. We actually went through the different books on marriage, and we did find that they were kind of like, hey, if you want to have a good marriage, you need to build like us. And we have a generation coming up that actually wants to do marriage in a different way. And we think every marriage should have the right to be customized according to the purpose, according to the season, according to the calling on the couple. And we felt like a lot of them were like, hey, you need to build a 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath if you want your marriage to be blessed by God. But the truth is, God actually wants them to have the freedom to design their marriages according to who they are in that moment, but they use the same raw materials like respect and love and honor. And so we actually wanted to just open up our lives and talk about basically that, this is what we've learned, this is what you shouldn't do, this is what you can do, and just go with that.
John, what you've done here too is you have put in this discussion questions. There's some real navigational tools to get you through it. Designed for 5, 6, 7 days a week of study, and
Correct.
You go through it, and it's beautifully laid out. Congratulations on the effort.
That's our staff.
That's our team. Our team is amazing, and we worked on this together because, we're finding it, Lisa and I, as we get older, that you multiply much better when you work together as a team, not as an individual.
Right. Well, you talk about in the book the importance of dedicating yourself to your spouse and your spouse's success. And yet in this, you talk about seasons and times in your marriage when that wasn't always the case.
Yes. I mean, our first 4 years of marriage was really rough. It was like wrestling, WWF wrestling type of, we're very, very, very strong-willed people. And
John's 59% Italian.
Okay.
I'm half. It's just going to be intense.
And so, yes, and she's Sicilian, Apache Indian, all of that put together. So we're very strong people. And, the thing is, 2 strong people can be married together completely in love, and if you allow each other's strengths to build rather than tear down, it can be a very, very great thing. We didn't realize that the first 4 to 8 years of our marriage, and we were using our strengths to cut each other down instead of build each other. And once, God got us through that period and we started realizing what we were doing, we started building. When we started building, we started noticing a lot more fruit was coming out of our marriage than before we started tearing each other down.
Guys, you write about dominion versus domination. That a marriage never was was never intended to be a power struggle or to be a fight. But I love the phrasing there, dominion versus domination. How can you explain that to us?
I love that you would pull that out. It sounds like you caught the heart of the message, that our marriages were never meant to be a power struggle. They're meant to be a power union. And, before the fall, there was no power struggle. There was no battle of the sexes. They had one man, one woman with one heart. And the 2 of them were given something called dominion, which you mentioned. But with the fall, dominion changed into domination on the man's part and manipulation on the woman's part. Order changed into disorder, and multiplication changed into division. And unfortunately, a lot of the church is still holding the women under the structure of the fall. Because the truth is, Jesus came to seek and save that which was lost. And we're no longer under the sway of the fall. And so we do not need to be in this battle of the sexes. We need to actually be using our strengths to build one another up. The strength of wisdom and influence, the strength of protection, the strength of nurture, the strength of authority. John is the head of the household, but he's not the head of the household to dominate me. He's the head of the household to protect me. So what is God God entrusted in my life can flourish.
See, I find it very frustrating when I see marriages where the wife's giftings aren't celebrated and actually helped. You know, as Lisa's husband, I should be the biggest cheerleader and promoter in her life for her to do what God has created her to do. And I felt that right from the beginning. That's something that God put in me right from the beginning that was actually healthy.
You and I have a lot of friends in ministry who've done a great job with that as pastors who have really asked their wives and celebrated their wives to come along and take that journey with them.
Yeah, and now, but with Lisa's, I didn't want Lisa to become me. In other words, I wanted Lisa to become Lisa, the woman that God created her, and I wanted to be the head of the home in the aspect of supporting her to move into that role, because a lot of times what we see in the past is we've seen, you know, women that just basically were the shadow of their husband. Yeah, they worked together, but she was trying to be his shadow. Whereas we believe that Lisa can be very uniquely gifted in one area, I can be uniquely gifted in another area. You put the two together and it's much better. And so what I saw happening is, I actually had people warn me. They said, if you promote your wife like you're doing, if you really, you know, encourage her to go out, you're going to lose something in your home. Do you know what I found? It was quite the opposite. I ended up getting a more fulfilled wife. Therefore, she was a happier mother. She was a happier wife. Because why? What God put inside of her was not being squelched by the authority I have in my home. I was using the authority to build her. And that's exactly what Paul said. I've been given authority of God to build you, not to squelch you. Let me give you an example of where I saw this happening. You know, early on, there's such a pressure on men to be the head of the home, make all the decisions, right? So early on in our marriage, I'm making all these decisions because, hey, I got to be a guy, okay? I can't be a wimp. I can't be vulnerable with my wife. So I'm making all these decisions, and I noticed...
John's always been a strong leader.
I still am, but I've become better. And so what happened is I'm making decisions, and we're falling flat on our face on these decisions, on like 9 out of 10 of them. Okay? And my wife would try to interject. She'd go, honey, I don't think we should do that. Oh, no, I've made the decision. So after a couple of years of this, I'm finally getting it through my thick skull. John, you're not making really great decisions. And so I'm kind of complaining to the Lord in prayer. I said, God, what's up with this? I don't get it. I mean, I'm making decisions. I'm the head of the home, and these decisions are falling on their face. I pray 2 hours every morning. Lisa prays 10 minutes in the shower. Now, that was my observation. I realized Lisa had learned how to walk with God. I did 2 hours and cut God off. So I'm like, God, you gotta help me here. What's going on? And the Lord said to me, He said, son, I want you to get a paper. And this is back at, 20 years ago. And He said, draw a circle on this paper. So I drew a circle on the paper. He said, now put X's all over the circle. So I put X's all over the circle. He said, now draw a line right down the middle of the circle. He said, you're not complete in yourself anymore. He said, you and Lisa are one flesh. That circle represents both of you, but do you see there's a line down the middle? You're the left half, she's the right half. Do you see the X's are in half of your half the X's are in your half the X's are in her half. I said, yeah. He said, what are those X's? He said, those are information you need for me to make a good decision. You're making all your decisions based off of just the X's on your half. Yeah. If you are a wise leader, you would draw out from your wife what I'm showing her and put value in it, and that way you would make a good decision.
33 years together now?
Yeah.
What are you doing? Sharon and I have been married 32. What are you guys doing to keep your marriage fresh as you're moving to 34 and 35 years?
Well, that's a good question, because it is a new season. And what we kind of felt like when we wrote this book was we were kind of putting a close on one season and marking a path well, and then getting ready to move into a new season. So we are actually kind of making this up. We're kind of writing about what do we want this to look like 5 years, 10 years from now. Good. And understanding we're not going to be mom and dad in the way that we've been mom and dad anymore. True. And so what does this look like? And it's a dance. We're actually talking to lots of friends. We're reading books. We're trying to figure that out. So
and I think even something like this, I think, is helpful.
Yeah, it's very cathartic to write. You actually see all your puzzle pieces come together, and you're like, okay, this is what we did right by accident, and this is what we did wrong on purpose. Let's not do that again, and learn from it.
John, there may be some young couples who early now in their marriage, and they find themselves like you found yourselves 33 years ago, where you come from two completely different family situations. Lisa came from one kind of family world. You came from a different kind of family world. Explain a little bit about that, if you could, and then how you could encourage young couples who are facing this same thing to work together so 30 years down the road they're still together?
Well, you know, we figured out that there were strengths on Lisa's family side and there were strengths on my family side. And what we do is we drew from both of those strengths that we observed. In other words, let's put it this way. My mom and dad were married 66 and a half years. And Lisa's parents were divorced twice. Mm-hmm. What we saw with my mom and dad was the commitment, the faithfulness, the dedication. We drew from that. Good. One thing that maybe lacked on our parents, my parents' side, was the affection and more. And so Lisa drew that. We drew that from her side, and so we brought in.
Actually, learn from what you shouldn't do too.
Yeah, and what we've observed is our son now has been married to his wife Juliana, and they have 3 children. They're doing things even better than what we did,
right.
And I'm actually admiring what my son is doing and thinking, gosh, why didn't I do that with my wife? You know?
Yeah.
And so you talk about keeping it fresh. I think the way to really keep a marriage fresh is to make sure our relationship with God stays fresh and that we make time for each other. And that's really, really important. So, you know, there's nothing that can replace time spent together. Lisa, a lot of times, she's getting ready to go all the way around the world here in the next couple of weeks. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I've got to find the time that she and I are together, and I've got to get that time with her, because there's nothing better than having that time together and sharing your heart. And the thing that we've learned is that we're going to see things differently because we are 2 different individual personalities. Right. And so I've got to respect the way she sees things, and she's got to respect the way I see things. And we put it together, it usually ends up being a pretty good picture, because just one of us doesn't see really the whole picture, and God makes it that way so we would continue to draw on each other. I
want to thank both of you, too, for the conclusion in the book that, you know, you've been very transparent that it hasn't always been easy. There have been long stretches of your marriage where it was a little hellish.
Yeah.
And you're open about that in here.
Extremely.
But then what you do, which I'm so grateful for, is you remind us, you say that what kept you together was your commitment to God.
Yeah.
And so that foundation, again, didn't fail you when everything else may have fallen apart.
Yeah. And, you know, I just want to say this, you know, it's never too late to begin again. And a lot of couples, they don't know how to begin again. And we really poured into this book how to begin again. You know, that God actually has put things in their hearts. They need to dream again. They need to begin again. And they can write the end of this story now and begin to move into that.
That's good, Lisa.
I hope you sell a gazillion of these. And I tell you, one place that you can find it right away is you go to our e-store. Just simply go to 100huntley.com, click the e-store button, navigate there very quickly. You can purchase this book. It's structured in a way that'll help you. You read some great thoughts. The Beveres are very transparent. They give you great themes and handles that you can hold on to. It's biblically centered, rich with scripture, and it can take you to the next places. It's a good guide for you and your spouse to walk through in the morning or afternoons or evenings as you're growing together. And I hope that you'll get it. These folks are lovely people who love Jesus Christ and who have given themselves over these decades, not only to each other and to their family, but to a public that appreciates their content. It's called The Story of Marriage, John and Lisa Bevere. Please come back over and over again. It's great to see you.
Great to be with you, John.
Thank you very much.
Great to be with you, John.
Continued success, guys.
Thanks for what you're doing.